Welcome back to the O Hockey Show, and today we are talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs and what their road to Lord Stanley's Cup, the trophy, the championship, the thing that the Toronto Maple Leafs have been so dired and seemed ready and prepared to win since at least 2018 it seems like, but they just can't get past that first round. It's a shame, but is this going to be the year? And that is kind of what we're looking at. Now, this is not a predictions, okay? This is not me predicting what they're going to do. This is just to take a look at the obstacles that this team's going to have to face going through the gauntlet, which is the Stanley Cup playoffs. And if they get past the first round finally, what obstacles, what teams are going to have to play against? So that is what we're looking at here. So let's start off with the first round, as that is the one that all the playoffs start off with. It would be silly if I started in the conference final. Is the Tampa Bay Lightning, the team that they lost to last year, which is when the last time they played them. Last time they played them last year, of course, Toronto was back and forth. Toronto wins, Tampa wins, Toronto wins, Tampa wins, back and forth. But Toronto always had the lead until Game 7, the game that matters most, and they lost. They lose it. Nick Paul gets 2 goals, an incredible second goal. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've seen it already, the Nick Paul goal. That was absolutely brutal, and you get sent home once again in the first round after a tough challenge in what seemed like your year to finally go on your quest, at least to go far in the playoffs, but wasn't to be against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So this year, though, what has happened this year? So this year, they've only played 2 out of 3 of their matchups that they're going to play, and it's back and forth so far. Tampa Bay wins the first one in December, 4-3, and then Toronto flips the script just 2 weeks later on December 20th and wins 4-1. So right now, these two teams are going to play each other, right? There's no way that Tampa's going to get knocked out. My last video about Vegas, it could have been who knows who they're going to play in the first round, but Tampa is who Toronto's going to be playing up against. So far this year, they're back and forth, but as we know, Tampa Bay has been very shaky as of late. I don't know what's going on the team. There's some drama behind the bench, off the ice. Who knows? Something's going on there, but they've been kind of shaky as of late. So their latest matchup coming up in April, pretty close to the playoffs, will be pretty telling to see where these two teams line up. I believe it's actually one of the last, it's definitely in the last 5 games they play, I think, or it might be the third to last. I don't remember, but it'll be definitely telling to see that matchup. That could be definitely their first round. They're going to want to show up against them. So right now between the teams, I'm going to give I can't give anyone the offense. The offensive advantage I'd say is 50-50. Both teams, yeah, sure, maybe I would say Toronto has higher highs offensively than Tampa Bay, but at the same time, Nikita Kucherov kind of trumps all of them. So I'd give kind of offense, kind of a 50-50 split between both teams. I can't really give one team the edge over the other one. Depth-wise, I would say Tampa Bay has it, but then at the same time, Toronto has Tavares, Marner, Nylander, Matthews. I would give, Kucherov above those 4 guys, but then those 4 guys above, Stamkos, and then Cirelli, and then Braden Point. So it is kind of a split there for me, so I don't really give either of them the edge in that category. Defense-wise, I'm going to give to Tampa Bay. Their defense back there is one of the reasons that they keep winning a Stanley Cup, as well as goaltending as well, who I give the edge to Tampa Bay. In net, sure, the Maple Leafs have let less goals this year, which would kind of make you believe that they have the better offense and defense and goaltending. But Tampa Bay, they have Hedman and Sergachev, and well, I guess now they don't have McDonough anymore. But then in net, they have Vasilevsky. This team is so stacked defensively, and which is one of the biggest reasons they win a Stanley Cup every year, that in the playoffs, I don't know if Samsonov is going to be the guy to really overcome the Tampa Bay Lightning. But let's hypothetically say they get past the Tampa Bay Lightning, right? So they get past them, and who are they facing in the second round? So in the second round, they've got most likely, I doubt that Boston loses in the first round. The team that has given them so much grief, and the team that primarily was the one to start the whole can't get past the first round shtick, is the Boston Bruins. Last time they played first round 2 years in a row, I believe it was 2 years in a row, they lost 4-3 both times to the Boston Bruins. I was watching the game where they got eliminated in a Hard Rock Cafe across the street from what used to be the No Talking Stick Resort Arena. So that was a fun game to watch there. I believe it ended 4-3 actually as well, and then ended the series 4-3. But anyways, the Boston Bruins, this year, as we all know, absolutely fantastic team here. And this season against these two teams, so recently, they haven't played each other in the playoffs since 2019, but this is the year that really matters. So this year, right now, they played 3 out of 4 of their games that they're going to play, and Boston's won 2 out of 3 of them, and Toronto won only the first one so far. So ever since the teams really came together, most recently, Boston has the advantage. So November 5th, Toronto wins 2-1. Then Boston has won the last 2, 4-3 and 5-2. So scoring-wise, Boston has the advantage overall scoring. And, overall, what does Boston not have above every team? And I hate to say it, give, a team a full sweep. But offense, defense, and goaltending for them, I gotta give the hand to the Boston Bruins. I don't know if I would give Boston any other team a better advantage above them. Maybe very specific teams, like maybe New York, but I guess I'll talk about that when I get to the Boston video. But Boston against Toronto, you could say that Toronto's highs are higher, kind of the same deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but with just how deep that the Boston Bruins are, and then how they're going to play in the playoffs, and how strong they've been every year when they do make the playoffs, they just seem so complete that I just can't give Toronto any of it. Defensively especially, Boston's got that, and Linus Ullmark, he is the Vezina candidate. I don't think there should be any debate about that, so you got to give Boston that as well. I guess, and I wanted to throw in just in case somehow Boston got eliminated, the two teams that they could be playing up against, Pittsburgh and the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers this year, they've only played 2 out of 4 of the games that they're going to play against them, and Toronto has won both of them. And against the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto has won 2 out of 3 of those as well. Pittsburgh picking up the other win. But one thing I will say so far on the list, and will be a trend, is that no clean sweeps for either team. My Vegas video, there was a lot of clean sweeps of the season, but so far Toronto, not any clean sweeps for them or the other team that they play against, and that continues into the conference finals. So they get past the Tampa Bay Lightning. They get past, most likely, the Boston Bruins. They're finally making that deep playoff run. They've made it to the conference finals. First time, I believe, since the last time they actually could have played this team in the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, I don't know that for sure, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, you can tell me down below I'm an idiot and that I'm completely wrong about that, but I think this is the last time they made the conference finals was against the Carolina Hurricanes in 2002 when Carolina beat them and I believe won the Stanley Cup that year. They beat them 4-2. So this season, though, most recently, Carolina, of course, first in the the Metropolitan Division. This year has gone not back and forth between these two teams. Toronto has the advantage so far this year, winning 2 out of 3 of the games. November 6th, winning 3-1. March 27th, 17th, just recently. So this is where games kind of really matter because they are close to the playoffs at this point. March 17th, Toronto wins 5-2, but then a couple days later, and actually just a couple days before recording this, beat them. Carolina comes back and beats them 5-3. So still pretty. If you kind of wipe out that first game, pretty close between each other, winning 5-2 and then 5-3 the next time. So these two teams easily could completely change. There's nothing going off of just their season stats. It doesn't really tell you anything much about the two teams. Sure, Toronto's won 2 out of 3, but the most recent games and playing right back against each other, kind of like a playoff series would be, has been 1-1. So Carolina versus Toronto, I gotta give the offense to Toronto this time. My thing has always been about the Carolina Hurricanes is that their offense, they don't really have any superstars like the Toronto Maple Leafs have, but they're so deep as well. That's the thing. They don't have super high highs, but they have no lows. You know what I mean? Toronto's got really high highs, but are way low when it comes to their fourth line and stuff. And especially, now this is where Carolina gets all the other advantages defensively. Defense can also generate offense, and those guys back there in Burns and Gostisbehere, those guys are going to generate offense back there, as well as goaltending-wise. Frederik Andersen, the guy who used to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, that goaltender, getting his revenge against the Toronto Maple Leafs, I would give Carolina the advantage. Even if he got injured on the way to into the conference finals, I think if they bring in Kochetkov, I think they would still have the advantage above the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think Kochetkov would be given that chance. He had good numbers this year, and I think he'd keep rolling along with them against the Maple Leafs. So I think goaltending goes to Carolina. The other team they could be playing is the New York Rangers, of course. The team that the last time they played was in 1972 in the playoffs. That is how long it's been, which is kind of the fun stats I like to throw in. So New York won that series 4-2 as well, as the same way Carolina did back in 1972. So pretty interesting stat there. I guess that they wouldn't have never have played each other, but look at that, 1972 last playoff series. So pretty interesting there. But anyways, this season though, they've played only 2 games against each other. And those 2 games ended once again 1-1. No clean sweeps for anyone. New York winning the first one, winning on December 15th, 3-1. And then January 25th, Toronto wins 3-2. So the 3 is the lucky number in this matchup between these 2 teams. But the overall, their team, offense and defense, I'm kind of split on who I would give the advantage to either one of them. I go 50-50 because with New York, I feel like kind of their offenses of now having Kane and Tarasenko as well. I would have given it to Toronto before, but with those guys, now you have the 4 versus 4. Zibanejad, Panarin, Kane, and Tarasenko versus Tavares, Nylander, Matthews, and Marner. So you have that 4v4 there. Defense, though, I like the Rangers' defense, but it is not the best defense in the league by any means. I like Adam Fox. I like Keandre Miller. But I don't know if that surpasses what Toronto has brought onto this team, bringing in guys like Jake McKay. Losing Sandin was a pretty dumb choice, but we all know that. But I know I would probably give the edge to New York over for defense, but I'd probably give a little bit more of an edge to the Maple Leafs on offense. But since it's so close, I'd say defense and offense are pretty split between the two. But goaltending, once again, I have to give the lead to the opposing team, to the Toronto Maple Leafs, in Igor Shesterkin. I don't think Shesterkin is going to be outplayed by Toronto's goaltenders, and I think Shesterkin would show up in that series way more than those guys would on the Toronto side. So I give them the edge there, but I think this would be a pretty close matchup between the two. I wouldn't really give an edge to either one. But let's say Toronto, with Austin Matthews scoring 25 goals through this point. He's going absolutely nuts. Marner assisting on every single one of them and more. All Nylander still being a beast, the consistent man in Nylander, and Tavares showing up and being that New York Islander play from the Florida series. So they've led all the way to this point, and they get to the Stanley Cup Finals. They've overcome the Lightning. They've overcome the Bruins. They've outplayed the Hurricanes, and now they get to the Stanley Cup Finals. Now, the teams that they're going to be playing up against are pretty tough against them. Obviously, they made it to the finals. So first up, we've got the returning Stanley Cup champions, the Colorado Avalanche. Now, these two teams' records, once again, back and forth between the two. In December 31st, last game of the entire year, Toronto wins it 6-2 against the Colorado Avalanche, and then back in March 15th, which was just I guess more like 2 weeks ago now, Avalanche come back and win 2-1, and I believe that was in overtime, but don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that one was in overtime. So between those two teams, in the season, they're pretty split, but overall, I gotta give Colorado the advantage in offense. I mean, just the problem with Toronto is I feel like sometimes in the playoffs their guys do go quiet, and if they have gotten to the Stanley Cup Finals, obviously they didn't. But I think if the Avalanche were to make it to the finals this time, their guys who showed up last year in Lehkonen and Nichushkin are on fire this year, and they got to play with this team, and they're back in the finals with McKinnon and Landeskog. I think is supposed to be back by the time if they would make it to the finals, so they at least have him, even if he's not at 100%, they'd still have him on the lineup. Mikko Rantanen, and then the added offense from Makar. I gotta give the offense lead to the Avalanche, and then defensively as well. I love Colorado's defense. Colorado's defense is my favorite in the league. It's just a shame that it's on the Colorado Avalanche, a team that I don't really like because of you know who you are if you're watching this. Probably not. And, yeah, so they're a defense back there of Manson, McCarr, Byram. I mean, just the Gerard. The list goes on. And there's no way. I mean, I would give them, the Avalanche's defense, I'd give the thumbs up to over any other teams in the league, I think. I think they get the pass by any means. But then when it comes to goaltending, this is where I would think is interesting. This might be the only time I think on the entire board that I give maybe a slight edge to the Maple Leafs, because I know Georgiev and Francouz. I know some people call him Francouz, which is not right. I'm pretty sure it's Francouz. I don't. If they made it to the finals, I guess the goaltenders for each team would have to be good at this point, and Samsonov and Murray or Shalgren, whoever's in net for Toronto at that point, would be showing up and playing good. So I feel like it might be a split there. I don't know who. At that point, I feel like it would be kind of a judgment. On paper now, I'd give it to Colorado. But if they were to make it to the finals with these teams, I think it would be pretty much a split between the two teams. So I can't really give an edge to either team in that category. But overall, I think Colorado has the advantage overall. They match them on all fronts on offense, and it'd be a tough series for Toronto. I think they would be the underdogs in that one. Moving on to the Vegas Golden Knights from the Pacific Division, this is where I think Toronto's real offense could shine through. But I say that, but this is the only team, not the only team, this is one of only two teams on the board where there's a clean sweep by the Maple Leafs or the other team, and this is Vegas's time to shine. Vegas in on October 24th, beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-1, and then November 8th, they come back and win as well, 4-3, and I believe that was in overtime, but once again, not entirely sure. So, Vegas, the team that I would think Toronto has, like, the offensive advantage above and against the other team, is actually the team that has scored way more than Toronto Maple Leafs have. And I think that's shocking. And I think in the playoffs, if they made up in the finals, it would definitely be the defense of Vegas versus the offense of Toronto. And I think that would be truly what the series would be all about. And as you can see there, offense I give to Toronto, but defense and goaltending I give to Vegas. So it would really be defense versus offense. Who wins that series? And I don't know. That's a perfect mix, because Vegas is very deep, but they have guys like Eichel and Stone and Marchessault and Smith. They do have hitters up front, and they do have hitters all the way in the back too. So I feel like overall, I would give once again the advantage to Vegas, just because Toronto's up front guys are way stronger than Vegas's up front guys, but their guys are stronger. They're deeper. They're a deeper team. And Toronto is a stronger up-front team. So it'd be a very interesting dynamic there. And I think in the playoffs, you need a deeper team than a bigger, a up-front team more. So I think I'd still give it to Vegas, but still, I think it would be offense versus defense. Who can overcome the other one's superpower? Moving on to Dallas. Now, Dallas, I didn't really want to put 4 teams in the final Stanley Cup spot, but I just couldn't convince myself any other way to, I wanted to throw you as much information as you can have. So, the Dallas Stars, this season, October 20th, this is the other time, and the only time on this board that Toronto has had the clean sweep against the other team. So, out of the 2 games they played this year, October 20th, Toronto wins 3-2, and then December 6th, Toronto wins 4-0 against the Dallas Stars, which is interesting, because I do think Dallas's thing, and I know I wrote offense, I've given Dallas the clean sweep overall on everything, but I say that more because this is the thing with Dallas and with Vegas, is that I would give Vegas the defensive stuff, and then Toronto was overcome by their offense. And then here, with the Dallas Stars, I would say Dallas has the overall advantage over them, but Toronto is the one to upset the other team. So, interesting there. In the playoffs, it's going to be a completely different atmosphere. But I give Dallas, Ottinger to their guys. Ottinger's going to show up. Defense, I mean, they got so much defense there on the Dallas Stars. And offense, they are so deep overall. Sure, once again, I keep saying it, the Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, their higher highs are higher than Actually, Nick Robertson, though, I mean, it's kind of the effect of, like, the Tampa Bay Lightning, where, I don't know, people might not realize that Robertson, he kind of has the edge over the Toronto Maple Leafs there, is with Pavelski and Rupe Hintz, and the list, their depth just goes all the way down. I think Dallas is, like, I think just looking at their team has, like, the most points overall in the whole team. Anyways, so, I don't know, Dallas, I would kind of, it's weird, because on one hand, I think Dallas is kind of the underdog, but at the same time, I still think that they have a better team, but that's because we all view the Toronto Maple Leafs as a superstar team, while we view Dallas as kind of like a out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but it's weird. It's just a psychological thing. I think we view Toronto as a superstar and Dallas as the underdog, but I think Dallas might actually have the advantage overall in each category, so that would be an interesting one to see, the blue versus the green. I don't know. It just seems interesting. And then finally, and I think what would be the best series for the NHL's money interest is LA. LA Kings versus Toronto Maple Leafs, I think would be fantastic money-wise for the NHL. This year, though, once they are finally split once again. So October 24th, the Kings win 4-2, and then December 8th, once again, Toronto shutting down a team 5-0 against the LA Kings, which is surprising. So, kind of hard to read off of that, because obviously the Kings having a bad night that night, losing 5-0, not really like the Kings. They're pretty solid overall. And with the categories, offense, I'm kind of split. I would give it to Toronto, but the Kings, they have a special... They have a special mix. Like, in the playoffs, you don't know what a guy like Quinton Byfield could show up and be the guy to shut them down. Kind of like a Nick Paul for Tampa Bay last year against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, it's kind of an interesting situation where I think, once again, broken record, Toronto's high highs beat out the Kings, but I feel like the certain players on this team could easily, like a guy like Byfield, could easily be the type of guy to get 7 points in, like, 3 games or something against the Maple Leafs, you know? Like, the Kings kind of have that, they kind of have those, like, the potential of some breakout players than the Maple Leafs do, you know what I mean? Like, the Kings have a better opportunity. I know a lot of people are like, the Kings in the finals, I know, but I kind of can't write them off. I don't know. I just can't convince myself otherwise. And so, offense, I'm, like, kind of torn. Defense, I would give to LA, but they're the closest one that I would say maybe Toronto does have the edge. It's just once again, the Kings, they just have that, they have like a spice, you know? They kind of have like a thing where I feel like the Kings crowd in LA and the momentum that this team had. I mean, being a Sharks fan since I was a child, I know what it's like to play against the LA Kings and seeing that crowd and how LA, when they turn on, they're on. And this team is still there. They still have Doughty and they still have Kopitar. Like, they have the pieces still there to be electric. And I don't know. I just can't convince myself otherwise. And the Kings, I don't know. Goaltending, once again, I'm kind of split there. That's where I'm like, I don't know. Does a guy like Korpisalo, does a guy like Peterson overcome? I've never been the biggest fan of Peterson and Korpisalo. And Samsonov, Murray, or Shalgren, whoever's in net. I don't know who I'd give that. That would be my favorite series. I think if there was a series that on this board I'd want to see, it would be the Kings versus the Maple Leafs. That would be a fantastic series. I think it would be back and forth and would like end 4-2 at, I don't know. I feel like the Kings have the advantage there. I don't know why. I just feel like the Kings have that. When they're in the playoffs, they are on. You know, they're the type of team that once they're in it to win it. You know, and I know all the teams are, but they're like a serious contender when they're in the playoffs. They're not like a pushover team like the Capitals seem to be if they make it in again. This is a serious squad. So that is all I have to say. I know this is a prolonged video. I'm usually trying to keep them shorter, so I'm sorry. But if you watched it all the way to this point, you're a superstar, so thank you for watching this far. And if you did, you might as well pick up your free subscription down below by hitting that red subscribe button, because why the hell not? You might as well. And you might as well leave a like as well. Do that too. So if you liked all of that and you did all that, you are fantastic. If you didn't and you've got this far, you're a warrior. So good job. So thank you for watching this. That is all I have to say about the Maple Leafs. Just kind of sum it up. I think the Maple Leafs, they have a tough road. I think this is probably the most challenging playoff series. Not playoff series, playoffs in general, I think, ever. In my opinion, this is the toughest playoffs ever. Every single team I could totally see winning the Stanley Cup. Even to a team like last year, I'd write off like the LA Kings. This year, I'm like, I don't know. I think any team on this board has a chance of winning the cup. I mean, honestly, maybe not like a team like the Florida Panthers or the Penguins, but every other team, Lightning, Boston, Toronto, Avalanche, the Kings, Dallas, Vegas, every team, I'm like, I can see their road to the cup happening. But once again, that road's going to be tough. Toronto, a team that should have won the cup already in the last 5 years, has a even more challenging time than ever facing them to win this cup. So that's all I got to say. Thank you for watching this. I am still better than you, and you know it. If you know who that is and who quotes that, write it down below. If you do, I'll be a fan of you. So until next time, thank you for watching this. Too sweet, and ta-ta for now.